So yesterday we started the study, and at the end, after the study, some brethren asked me if we continue. I actually had planned to close it up. That was it. But nevertheless, the study bears still some interesting, I think, details, some questions that we have in regard to the waymarks. So therefore, we would like to build it up again with you, and then to have a look on several things. And if there are questions, then we should deal with them and see what conclusion we can draw. All right. So in other words, I'm not going to continue now in the idea of studying the errors of this movement, but rather having a look again on the lines and what the waymarks mean. And this is fine with me. I hope it's fine with you. So we came to the line through the line of the ship, which is a new line. All right, and then we intended to have a quick look on the lines of the priests, the Levites, the Nethinims, 144,000, in order to see some parallels, to draw some conclusions. Right, but this study in itself is a big study, of course. So then we put the parallel to the Millerite line. And I would like to do this again here with you, and take some extra time to go through these lines. So I have the line of the 144,000, but I also would like to put here the line of the Millerites. So what we will do, we will draw 1, 2, 5 lines at least. First line is the Millerites. Second, the 144,000. The next one is the line of the priests. Okay. Okay. So these lines or these events happen at the same time. Only these lines happen different time periods. They're just parallel, but they happen different time periods. The other lines overlap each other at some point in history. Okay, so let's start. Let's begin with the main line of the 144,000, which shows us a guidance or as a pattern, the main pattern to our line, to all the other lines. Who would like to take? Would you like to take this line and start with the events, or with the dates? Yes.
So that would be 1989.
Yes.
Can you explain, because when you explain, because yesterday it was really new, a bigger deck, and now we want to
So 1989 is when
A question: are you more familiar with the Millard line, or not that much either?
this one.
Okay, all right. What is 1989?
1989 is the time of the events.
Okay, so each event has a date and has a meaning. Yes? 1989 is the time of the end for the 144,000. Okay, these are two different things and we need to keep them separated. Yesterday I think it was not perfect. I tried to correct this. It's the time of the end. Okay, you can continue. Sorry. Why is it the time of the end? I think this would be the question.
It's the time of the end because that is the time God, several things happen. God went the covenant with the new group. I think the covenant, they were not the remnant, but that was also when new truths were being revealed to God's church as it was, and they had rejected them, so he had to move into a covenant with the ones who would accept the new lights and new truths that were revealed in the covenant with this previous church. And so that's the time when that line started. So it's a new dispensation. So that's how I would say it. You can say
What Bible verse?
Say again?
What Bible verse declares this year?
What Bible verse declares this year? It would be Daniel 2 verse 40 something.
Daniel 11, you mean, I guess, huh? So this is Daniel 11, verse 40. Right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's check it. Let's read it. Daniel 11 verse 40, and at the time of the end. Yeah, this is the term. This is where we get it from. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. So why is this 1989? Someone, whoever wants to help here? You have it? The logic in mind? No?
It is in reference to the previous line, the Millwright line, where they had their own time of the end in 1798, but it's more so looking at even the previous history of what was the king of the north, what was the king of the south, and what was the king of the north, and from previous history, we know the king of the south.
Okay, so what our brother is telling us, this is a parallel event to the Millard history, where in 1798 we know there was also a time of the end. And this is what Bible verse? You have the correct numbers, but you have to mix. You put them in order. It's the very same verse, right? It's the very same verse. This verse speaks about these 2 years. All right. So, sister, you can explain that? How this happens, just in simple words?
In simple words, we see in 1798, that time of the year where we see the king of the south, who is France.
France.
The king of the north, who is papacy.
France, the king of the south, goes against the Pope, the king of the north. Yes? Pushes at him.
And then now on the second part, in 1989, we see the king of the north, who is papacy and the United States, coming against him, who is the king of the south, who is now the USSR.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we say? Do we still say the Soviet Union? King of the South? Yeah. Yes. Okay, Russia. USSR. King of the South. And they come against them. So this verse, like our brother said, here has 2 parts. Part A, which is this story, and part B, which is this story. Okay? So the fight between those 2 powers, King of the North and King of the South, happened in 1798. The King of the South won. This is when the Vatican was invaded by the French troops. The Pope was taken captive, 1798. But in the second part of the verse, the Bible jumps here over 200 years, right? It tells us that the king of the north came against him, and the Pope never went against France, killing France, finishing France. No, but it came against another, the new king of the south, exemplified by or represented by Russia in 1989. Okay, so and since it says at the beginning, like at the headline, at the time of the end, this happens and this happens. So we have 2 times of the end, and we see the same thing is happening. Just first he wins and then he loses. Okay, so this is where we get these dates from. Is this enough for you in terms? Okay. Okay, good. Next event, 144,000.
So you have 2001, 9/11.
9/11. I put 2001. What is 2001? What happened 2001 prophetically? What exactly is the second angel's message? You put it second angel's message. An angel's message has two waymarks. One angel's message. It's not just there. Exactly. It arrives at a point in time, and White says that the first angel's message arrived here. But in 1798, Miller was 16 years old. There was no Millerite movement, but there was a first angel's message. So this is just the arrival, and it works over a time period until it is empowered. Yes? So in this case, what is this, the arrival or the empowerment? Of the second angel's message, so when did it arrive? This is the empowerment of what? Of the first angel's message. And it's the arrival of the second. So, arrival. Second angel message arrives, 2001. What happens in 2001? Why is this the angel's message? Brother Douglas.
Revelation 18 came down
Yeah.
with the second angel's message, and this was spiritual prophecy connected with the falling of with the turning and overturning of God's by the power of God of the great buildings of New York, September 11, as a result of the beginning of the third war.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is not the first before we found this text, we knew this would happen. We knew already without this text. How do we know without this text from Review and Herald that this would happen? Here in this time period, before 2001, our movement knew that Islam would strike. Yes, knew that this story would be repeated to the very letter. Knew that the third woe would come into history. They did not know this text that the brother just quoted from Review and Herald. We did not have this text. Nobody. Some read it, but they were not really conscious that this would be this event here. So without the help of this text, where we make an application, how can we show that this would be the event? That this was the event. Yes.
I guess just looking back at the wars in Revelation
Yes.
and seeing how the second war came in the middle of history and how there is
When did it come in middle history?
1840 August 12.
Yeah. 8th of November. Yes. 1840.
Came into history.
What is this a question or is it?
Yeah, the second war came into history there.
Right, we have the same issue as we have with the messages, the angels' messages. The messages come, they work, and then they are powered, and then they are proclaimed. The woe is the same thing. The woe is not one day. The woe is a long story, right? It arrives, it works, and is empowered at a certain time period. I think this is what you're asking. So the woe in itself is not the only waymark of this woe. The woe continues to be in history until 1844. Right? But I don't know if we need to address this at this moment. Yes, it's.
Is that November?
Yeah, I do European.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was.
Yes,
Okay.
that's how you do it in Canada, don't you? Yes.
August,
Yeah.
Yeah. Day, months, year.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
now we want-
You do in Canada month, day, year.
That's what you have there.
Huh?
You have monthly.
I wanted.
You want day monthly?
Yeah, I wanted, but that's correct. Month, day, year. Okay. I never understood the logic of month, day, year.
I know day
Huh?
monthly.
Nobody can explain it really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is August 11. Yeah.
Oh wait, so it is August and not November?
Yes.
No, okay. I thought you were doing it the other way, that's what I was trying to make sure.
Yes.
One more question. Doesn't the second war end there, not begin there?
Okay. Let's do a side. Stuff the woes. Take this away here, okay? The story of the woes is connected to what story? prophetically, how you call it, the story of what? The trumpets. There are the trumpets and there are the woes. How many trumpets do we have? 7. How many woes do we have?
3.
It's something different, but it's connected. All right? So let's put here the 3 trumpets. The last 3 trumpets, which are trumpet number?
5, 6, 7.
Sorry, 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7. Okay, when does the first trumpet, the 5th trumpet, come into history? What is the first trumpet? The 5th trumpet, I'm sorry. 5th trumpet. What is the 5th trumpet?
Muhammad.
Why no?
When Ottoman Empire fell.
It's the 5th trumpet
Yes.
is the Muhammad.
It's Muhammad.
Yes.
We also call it Arabic Islam,
Yes.
right? When does it come in?
1840.
It's written on the board.
1840.
No.
No?
Muhammad was long dead by that time. I think you have it here. 606. Okay, 606. Here goes the date. 606.
Need a refresher.
Yeah,
Good.
it's totally okay. We all need that. So this is when the first trumpet comes in. But the first trumpet, well, let's first do the trumpets and then do the woes.
Yes.
Until when? How long does this trumpet work in history? Why are you guessing pretty good? You can have a look at its charts, yes? They set the dates. Not every day, don't put when it starts, but they said first woe commenced 1299. So this is not the trumpet, this is the woe. First woe commenced. What do we have here? 1449.
That goes for 150 years.
So the first trumpet goes until
For 5 months.
1449. Yes. The date that you guess is the date of the woe. We'll bring it in. We'll bring it in later. Until when does the 6th trumpet, which begins here at the very same point, how long does it run?
The 6th trumpet.
You're mixing up woe with trumpet.
So
6th trumpet.
Just when the 6th trumpet begins.
It ends. The 6th trumpet begins here in 1449 when the 5th ends.
Yes.
Until when does it work? 1844. How do we know? This is the thing here related to this event, right? 1840, the woe comes to an end. We also say the wind was restrained. The winds were restrained. Islam was restrained by the 4 European powers. Okay, but the trumpet hasn't ended yet. There's one text that we use to defend this. We read the other day from William Foy, remember? In the very same text, you can read a statement where he says the 6th trumpet hasn't yet down sounding, something like that. And this was in 1842. So after this event here, he gives testimony that the trumpet has not ended yet. So 1844 is the end of the trumpet. When you can go into Revelation 11 and show that the events of Revelation 11, the events of 1844 are connected to the beginning of the 7th trumpet. When does the 7th trumpet end? Sunday law. I think this is what we have been saying. Sunday law. When, yes, the 7th trumpet, when it will have a last activity and then it will be killed. Yes. Yes?
It's under the seventh trumpet where it says that the seal of God will be put in his children.
Are you combining with the 7 seals?
Okay, I'm sorry.
No need to be sorry, man. So now we have here another little complication or detail. The first trumpet is running, but the trumpet has, so to speak, a peak. All right, has its highest momentum, which it's called the woe. Okay, so the woe is a period within the trumpet.
For each trumpet?
Yes, for each trumpet. For each of these last three trumpets. And then we had the date that the sister was guessing, 1299. And between 1299 and 1449, how many years do we find? Between these two dates here, how many years or how many months? Yes, 150 years, or the Bible says 5 months. Yes? So this is the prophecy that the Bible is giving us of the 5 months, 150 years. This is the woe. This is the first woe. Now then we have the second woe. When does the second woe start? For how long is the second woe? There is another time prophecy. This is the first. Remember that? These are things that we haven't been teaching, I think, in the last years for a while. So it's good to remember. Do you want to open Revelation 9? And I haven't been teaching this either for a long time.
15.
Yes, verse 15. Revelation 9, verse 15. Someone want to read it?
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of man.
Okay, how do we know where this prophecy starts? Whatever time span it is, we need to know where it starts, right? If we do not know where it starts, we cannot locate it in history. How do we know? We just have to go into the text and see that, yes?
I was going to say verse 14.
It's 14.
It says, save the 6th angel which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates, and the 4 angels were loose which were prepared for.
Mm-hmm. When were they loosed?
The 6th angel sounded at 1449.
What happened 1449? There's more to this. You need to go back a little bit further, verse 11, or even further.
So we're trying to find the time that
1449. Why is this the beginning, or is this the beginning of the second woe?
the war.
We know in verse 15 how long the woe will be, but we don't know when it begins. Pioneers have identified, we understand that the war began 1449. Why? Then we have to go into the text.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, remember?
I don't know. I think it began in 1449 when 4 powers came together. Right? And they came together These are the 4 sultan powers.
Where do we find that? It's a little bit down in the text, right?
It says,
Yes, I think this is verse 14, right? Which our brother already quoted. Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Correct?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 4 sultans.
These are 4 sultans. It's not that easy to identify in history, because there were many sultans, but these are the 4 most powerful sultans. Okay, the logic is, as I remember, if you see the text, and if you even go in the last woe, in verse 11, the woe gives us a logic. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon. 1 woe is past, and behold, there come 2 more woes more hereafter. So this king they have in 1299. This is when they had a king for the first time, Ottoman I. This is why it's called the Ottoman Empire thereafter. Yes. Ottoman I is the king, so they have this in place. And then verse 14 saying to the 13, and the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates, and the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month, etc. Okay, so I do not remember every detail here in this study, but we understand through the activities of the Muslims of the Ottoman Empire that the woe continues immediately. It just continues here, because what do we have in history? What event do we have in history just 4 years after? 4 years after 1449. In 1453, what happens? In 1453, Ottoman Empire, he manages to conquer Constantinople. Constantinople is what? It's the last stronghold, it's the last city and capital of the old Roman Empire, of the Byzantine, of the Eastern Roman Empire, right? So they end a long history. At this point, this is a big waymark in history, 1453. This is why we include this story here in the activity of the woe, because it's a culmination. It's there when their activity is the strongest. And as it is described, here it was a scorpion, which only causes pain, but here what is it? It's more than that, right? It inflicts death, pain and death.
Sorry, what verse is that?
Yeah, it's I think a couple of verses. Verse 15, when it says, they were loosed, they were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to do what? To slay the third part of man. The first woe, they do not slay the man. They just
Hurt.
you hurt them. They hurt them. Yes, they torment and they hurt, but they do not kill. Now, from this verse on, it says they kill them, and it says again later on that they, verse 18, and these three was the third part of man killed by fire and by smoke and by brimstone. What is this? What is this killing of the third part of man? Remember that? The third part of man was killed through this woe. What is this? On the logic? It was not the third part of the world was killed, right? Through Islam, not at all. But the explanation here, the third part is that the Roman Empire, after it had been founding down, had been divided in three parts. The three sons of Constantine, they divided their kingdom amongst themselves. So there are three parts. And the third part was Eastern Rome. And the third part was killed here. So the third part of the humans were killed, so to speak. This is why this event is here important, why this event is part of the woe. And of course the victory and the conquering of Constantinople did not start here. It's a long ongoing war. Yes. So this is why we set the beginning of the second woe here in this date, and then the calculation. How long is this? What does it say? 1 year? 1 year, 1 month, 1 day,
Hour, day, month, year.
1 hour. Right? 1 year prophetically is how many years? Year, day principle, day, year principle. You need to see always the days in order to understand how many years. 1 month is 30. 1 day is how many days? 1 day. And 1 hour is the 24th part of a day. And therefore you count 360 divided by 24, which is 15 hours and days. So this is years, 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 and this is days. So altogether, this is 391 years and 15 days. And this gives us then this exact date. Yeah? This here is this. August 11th, 1840. This is why it was so precise, because the instruction was so precise. And this, by the way, is also very precise. What day was it? It was not only the year 1449.
July 27th.
Exactly. July 27. And what was this year? What this day?
Same.
July 27. It was in July 27 that this king was king. He just became king and he started war against the Greek. Because it says they had a king and he made war. So these two things have to come together. When they had the first king, and then the king started first time his war, July 27, July 27. This is why we have August 11. So you remember? Does it come back more or less, slowly? Any questions so far? Is this clear? Clear enough?
Why do we say the time period between 1299 and 1449 is 5 or 150 on
This is the 150 years.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Because it says they had a king over them and they made war.
Okay.
They have a king since 1299.
Okay, so not days, but years.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the Arab time period when they had no kings. The Arabs were just tribes. It was a movement, so to speak. Here they begin to have a king. And this is the Ottoman time period. But the Ottomans, they ceased to here they seized, they lost their power through the intervention of the Europeans. They were slowly but surely losing their power already for quite a while. And then we have the last application, which is that this history is to repeat, because the Bible gives us a story of 3 woes, so we will have a third woe. And when we want to know how the third woe looks like, then we have to look at the first and the second. Yes? And where do we locate the third woe? 9/11. Does it there begin or does it end? And when does it end? Under law. So when it begins at 9/11, why is it a restraint as this one here? Because here the winds are restrained. When it's the beginning, then it's not parallel to this, then it's parallel to this, right?
Say again?
If 9/11 would be the beginning of the woe, then you cannot put it in parallel to this, because it's not the beginning of the woe, it's the end of the woe.
Right, okay.
So 9/11 would be 1449 or 1299, right? So it cannot be the end, it cannot be the beginning. It has to be the end. But this is a bit tricky, I think, here, and I think that we do not have as a movement developed or formalized our understanding of the third woe perfectly. There are some things like this that are not so clear. Because how can it be that the third woe ends in 9/11, but then we realize it will do its biggest activity after 9/11? No, because we expect that at the Sunday law they will hit again, and the midnight cry they will hit double as strong as they did at 9/11. So if it already ended, understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So when they hit, is it going to be, with bombs, or it's gonna be information war, it's gonna be...
Exactly, it's a good question, my sister, and I think all of us have become a little bit cautious because we have preconceived ideas how things will be, and then we are learning now that it's not like that, and I think this is why you're asking. If you would have asked me like 1 year ago, I would have said, yeah, what you saw at 9/11, this will be repeated just as double as strong as it was then, but I don't know. I don't know how it would look like.
I didn't realize that we tried to match beginning with beginning or end with end. I thought that we just relayed that this was a period of interaction with Islam, an important period in Millerite history, and it lines up with a period of interaction with Islam in the 144,000 line.
Perhaps we didn't do that. Perhaps perhaps it's just how I am seeing it. But I remember that we have been saying it was restrained at 9/11, which means it's the end of the war. But we also say it was released again. But this for me is it's not clear enough. I think we have not studied this out. There have been studies in the recent past. Some brethren have been studies on Islam. I don't know. I'm not up to date on this. Maybe we have already some better understanding on it. But for me, this is a little bit unclear, because 9/11 is the third woe, but I don't know if it ended or if it started or if it's in the middle of it, because we identify the midnight cry and the Sunday law as other waymarks of the Muslims. Okay. Nevertheless, returning to our first idea. So what we have done, this is Millerite history here. The Millerites identified this waymark. And why was it so important for them to identify this waymark here? the end of the second woe. Why was it so important for the Millerites? What?
So that their methodology was correct?
Yes.
That their-
Exactly. It was an application of the day-year principle, which they just had not discovered, but they had put it in, they had used it differently than before it had been used. Okay? The day-year principle is long time was in history already. Theologians had discovered it, understood it, but it's in the Bible, right? So, but they applied it, and if it's true what we are saying, all right, if this is true that Christ is coming, He's coming, then this and this happened, and this we just is to happen, is to be finalized. So they understood prophetically they are in the time of this event, and then they should be able to predict this date. So it was important for them. It was very important. It was a confirmation of their methodology. So, and this is the same thing for us. 9/11. It's a confirmation of our methodology. It was a confirmation. First thing is, one part of our logic was we are repeating Millerite history. And if we are repeating Millerite history, this waymark has to repeat. Right? Simple logic. So if we are repeating history, this has to happen. We realized at some point here before. I said, this has to happen.
We realized that before 9/11?
Yes, before 9/11. I was not in the movement. I entered a little bit later. But I remember I asked the brother, so when 9/11 happened, a brother from London, when it happened, did you know? And he said, well, we did not know when it will happen. But the day it happened, I knew exactly what it was. So they had been ready. They had been ready to understand that something like this will happen at some point. And when it came, they knew. They'd been expecting something like that. All right? While the rest of the world had no idea whatsoever, and still today has no idea, or just has no idea what it is. It's just one of the thousands and thousands of signs of the times, of signs of the end. That's it. Nothing more than that. So for our movement, this was important, and we had a clue why this is an event. Okay, shall we continue? Someone wants to continue? You want to continue? What's the next waymark? 144,000. Yes, Sunday law. And then the close of probation. What happens at the close of probation, or what Bible verse can you give us? Daniel 12, verse 1. When Michael stands up and stops to intercede for mankind. And then second advent and second coming. All right. Then we were yesterday trying to combine it, see the parallels in the Millerite history. What would be the Sunday law for the Millerites? Or what would be the close of probation for the Millerites? Let's start there.
The close of probation would be October 22nd.
October 22nd. And this? After the son-in-law, what will happen? There's another waymark which is important. After the son-in-law. This is typical classical Adventist understanding. We call it differently here, right, in this story? How we call it? The loud cry. There's a loud cry. So if there's a loud cry, then in this history we have what? The midnight cry, right? The midnight cry is Exeter. Let's put it here, E. But before Exeter we have what? We have two other waymarks or events, which were Concord and Boston. So Sunday law is what? What?
July.
Exactly. July 21st. And there's more to this. Yes, because you can. I first wanted to have the big waymarks, but in order to establish some, we need some more details here. And you can put also two important waymarks here in the beginning, right? After 1798, what is the first thing that happens in world history? How do we call what happens here? The increase of knowledge. So and I put now, this is this line here, okay? IK. After the increase of knowledge, what happens? The formalization. When was the increase of knowledge? Yes. 1816 to 18. And yes, 1816, 1818. And when was the formalization? 1831, right? 1831.
Was it till 1833?
What happened in 1831? What happened in 1833? Well, 1833, sorry. 1833, I think.
1831, Miller received his credentials. 1833 is the falling of the stars.
No.
He received his credentials the same year as the star.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
He preached his first sermon at 30.
I think in 31 he preached local. By 1833, we put it 33. All right. So this logic here, that you have these big waymarks, in between you have two waymarks. These two waymarks are nothing else than an increase of knowledge. They understand this, they begin to understand the message. The message increases and finally it is finalized. And they can write it down, or they can speak it out. They can preach it. So there's this development. And this is the same, this is nothing else than what's happening here at the end. There's a message, this message needs to be understood. This message receives an increase of knowledge. So once we have the same waymarks here. There's increase of knowledge, there's the formalization. And what is this then in this logic, or in this line? What is this? If there is an increase of knowledge, well, let's come to this history. There was an increase of knowledge. Then the increase of knowledge was written out in a magazine. And then, in 2001, what did you have to do? If it hit you, if this information, the events hit you. What did it mean to you, 2001? Baptized is something else. It's going on, yes. But let's say you heard the message. You came to understand the message. You read the Time of the magazine. And then came 2001. What was this for you? What's the meaning for you?
I guess it just confirms or solidifies that what happened in the Black history.
This is what it does, but when you were living in this time, do you just have... It was confirmed, yes, but I think I'm not able to frame my question. I just say it. This here turned out to be a test for you, right? You were tested on what you had learned here. So these people said history will be repeated. These people preached, we're in the time of the end. These people preached, we'll next have something like this here, like the first woe. Right? So when it happened, you had to make up your mind. You had to decide, do I accept, do I reject? This turned out to be a test. There's always a test here. There's an increase of knowledge, there's a formalization, and there's a test in regards to this. Same thing here. Increase of knowledge, formalization, and then October 22nd, the test. Okay, they were tested on what they had just had learned. They were tested on the midnight cry. They were tested on this before. This question here, that Christ is coming to the earth, this was not the test here. Their test was different here now, because they had already resolved this test. Those that participated here did pass this test. Okay? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So, and what we already said, if we bring this now in our line, and of course we have the same steps. Brother Jim, you remember? Can you tell us when was the increase of knowledge of our movement?
91, 92.
Yes, let's put here 1991. When was it formalized?
96.
96. 1996, what was formalized there, or what was published? A Time of the End magazine. And then you also could go again and say, this is then, symbolically, this is Boston, it's Concord, Exeter. Okay, and then yesterday we ended with the question, and this year, what is this? All right. So what did you learn, or what did you think about it? What conclusion did you come to personally? What event is this? Is this 1850? Is this 1863? Is it something else?
Oh, from this day, yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, let us know what you're thinking.
We have to determine, for me, in order to be established into what that year would be, it's to determine if after the second coming there's another testing period after we go into covenant with God, right? Which is what the second coming is symbolic of, right? So after that time, if we're going to go into another period of testing, then I'll put 1 year. If we're not going to go into another period of testing, then I'll put the other year. That's how I see it. So we need to determine if there's a testing period.
If this is parallel to this, to the second coming, it's another testing period, as you say, after the second coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So is there another testing period after the second coming?
Is there another testing period?
I don't know.
No. There is no other testing period.
Yeah.
No? Those that are taken to heaven at this point, they are transformed. They cannot, there's no way they can return now.
Right.
No? They are sealed.
Yeah.
Yes, totally sealed, and they're ready, and it's over. Now all this story is over. So then you would have to find an event that is parallel to it. Right? Yes. I settled into 1863. And I believe this is what we as a movement are saying, 1863. It's the end of this development of this time period. That's the end point, it's the last point. 1850 is not the last point yet. Okay, I think... So then there was one question yesterday, and this is something we can perhaps finish with in this hour. this loud cry, for whom is this loud cry here? Do you remember? Did you make the question? Yesterday someone made this question. For whom is this loud cry? So this loud cry, right, is this loud cry, is this loud cry here, right? This always has a meaning. It is for something. Something has to be accomplished. There's an aim to cry. So was this cry for? In this time period here. It was just for the people in this movement. They just entered the Myriad movement to pass this test, right?
Yeah.
No more than that. So it made them ready for this test. This message here made them ready. The message that has been given here, Miller's message. What did Miller preach here? Just by the way, 1833. What was he preaching? And I don't mean only this very year, 1860, 1833, 38, 39, and onward. What did he preach?
The end of the 23rd day.
Yes, exactly. The first angel's message. The end of the 2300 days, coming of the Lord, etc. Preparation needed to it, etc. This was his logic. He also preached what? Did not only use the 300 days, right? He had a manifold logic. What else did he preach? What time periods did he preach? The 2520, right? The 1290, 1335. It's all part of his logic. So there's a lot of things that he preached. This was, since 1833, he was preaching this. He had been studying this out in the years before, which we locate there as the increase of knowledge, 1816, 1818. And for a long time he just has been silent. He just has been communicating some things with some friends in his family circle, etc. So there's a message, and this message has the power to make those ready that are here participating for this test. Likewise, the midnight cry, the loud cry, here now we call it loud cry, because this loud cry goes out into the world. This is why we call it loud cry, and not midnight cry, but it's the same event. The loud cry is to make ready those that hear it. But who are those? For whom is the loud cry? We said yesterday. For the world. Why you say for themselves?
Because by then, the last group is the Nephilim, which is God's people in the world. Or I should say, which is the last group of God's people in the world, would be.
So we brought this.
Already heard. They would. I know it's not lined up down to the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Where is this loud cry here in the Nephilim line?
It's the third, the middle line.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. So
Because this is this. This is this. This has to be this. This is a loud cry.
yeah.
And then there was the question yesterday.
So they would have already heard the message at that time, or they would be part of those giving the loud cry. So that loud cry cannot be to them anymore.
Okay, how can it be that they give the loud cry here, and there's later on another loud cry? So whom are they giving this cry to?
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This was the question.
Yeah. So I'm saying, like in the same way on the Miller line, how you said that cry was to help them for the test, pass the test. I think it's going to be the same. I don't think.
But to pass, who has to pass the
remain
test?
ready for the second coming.
Okay, and there is an important point now. So there are some differences in these lines. Those people that receive the loud cry here, the word, okay, what is the loud cry telling them? What is the message of the loud cry?
Probation is closing.
What is finished? More practically, when you would give the loud cry in this time period, what do you say? You don't say, it's finished, people, it's finished, it's finished. Now, what you tell them?
You tell them
It's coming? What the message is this that you're giving?
receive the mark of the Revelation 14 verse 10 and 11, or 11 and 12. We receive the mark. We don't come out of Babylon, you receive the mark of the actually, the reward you will get if you don't
Okay.
come out of Babylon. That's really what
There's one thing in common that you all have been saying. What kind of information you give to people?
salvation is closing.
Warning, salvation is closing, Sunday law. It's all a prophetic message, right? You're not. Nobody said you will tell them how to make health treatments in order that they get ready. Yes. You do not tell them that they cannot smoke. This is not that they cannot. They shouldn't do competitive sports, stuff like that. This is not the loud cry. This is a message that we will be giving here as well, but this is not a loud cry. The loud cry is a prophetic message. So these people here that hear this message, they receive a prophetic understanding. Correctly? They have a prophetic understanding. This is the loud cry. This is what will hit them. But what about their lifestyle? They might not be vegetarians, they not be vegan, they don't nothing, right? They don't nothing. They do not know nothing. They have no instruction so far on how a Christian should be. Everything else, what we have been learning throughout our lives as Adventists, they do not know these things. They have no instruction. They just understand the Lord is coming. To get ready, take a decision. What about the rest of things? So can they go into heaven if they're still liars and robbers and assassins? Can they go into heaven? What do they have to do? They have a short time period when they have to overcome these things, right? So there's a moral message that they have to resolve these things. What does it mean? It means that they will have some time. They have a prophetic message which prepares them, brings them into conviction, but then they will be hit with lots of other things they need to learn quickly and change their lives quickly. Human being can't do that because the Lord is accomplishing these things in their lives. They have just to make the decision. So for this reason, this line here has some special characteristics to it. You receive the loud cry, but you come in then. There's another thing which we need to place here before we say it. If you think about the agricultural model, which is the underlying model for this logic here, how do we call this history? What's happening here? The plowing. What is this history here? Huh? The early rain. What is this? The latter rain. What is this? The harvest. Okay, this is very important, right? If we have this logic, then of course you cannot be harvested if you are still in the latter rain, because the fruit is not ripe yet. So the harvest can only be in this time period. Okay, so this harvest time period is this time period here for the Nethinims. It's a harvest. So they come in here. But some need some more time, they come in here. Some here. So the people come in here over a time period. The test for them is a test which is over a period. This is the situation for them. What about 144,000? So if we bring this history here, do the 144,000 after Michael stands up have these possibilities to change their lives?
No.
Of course not. Yes, Michael has stood up. Books are closed. So for them it's not the same as for them. For the 144,000, the door closes at a moment, at a point in time. Yes? They do not have the same circumstances. Levites, no, the Nethinims come in this time period here. In the harvest time, they come in, during the harvest time. Not so the 144,000. After Michael stands up, there's no way to come in. So their preparation is to be finished here. The test is a day. It's a point, it's a point in time. For them, it's a period of time. Questions? Comments? You want to say something?
I was just going to say that it is a period where the test comes and it's over with. But the period from close of probation to second advent, the period of harvest there, is a time frame for each of the groups to manifest the characters that they have formed.
Say it again. The period from where to where?
Close of probation to second coming in every line
Yes.
is a time where the different groups can manifest the characters that they have formed.
But for these people here, where can they form the character?
The characters is formed when they've made their decision. They're showing their character because they're going to go down into the grave. They're going to be martyred.
But they can only show the character based upon
But they know.
a message they heard, right? So from
That's what I mean. During that period, they're still showing their character.
yes,
From their close of probation to second
Okay.
coming. So same with the Levites, same with the priests. They get to manifest their character. Same with the 144,000.
yes, they manifest the character. I get that. That I think this is all right. I think we can say that, but they still need time, which these don't have.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so this is just the distinction I want to point out. And what about the Levites?
Same thing as the Nephilim.
Same thing as the Nephilims. Levites also, they just come in here, one by one, because they were not prepared in this time period. They were prepared by external events, right? They saw things. This did something in their brains, in their hearts. Some conviction, some question, many questions. But they had no conviction that they need to enter a movement, because they didn't know of the movement and they didn't understand this message. They need this event here in order to see it. And once the event hits, this event here hits, then they come into consciousness. They need to enter this movement. But then this movement has some information to give them. And you need to do this and this and this and this. We need to be teachers. We need to instruct them what they got to do. And this is not only to understand prophecy. This is everything. So what's the difference here for the priest? The same thing, or is it different?
It's different.
Why is it different?
It's, the probation closes at the point in time because the internal events are beginning movement that have been getting them all along. So they had that time, they had most of the time to be making the decisions and keeping the government spotless, as opposed to the Levites and the Levite workers.
What day is this, or what year is this, or what event is this?
November 9th.
November 9, 2019. So November 9, 2019, there's no possibility for the priests like the Levites will have and the Nethinims will have. No, because, say it again, why?
I was saying that, so for them they have a period of time.
What is their period of time?
Depending on how you look at it.
Exactly, but basically
All along,
it's
right?
30 years.
Yeah.
They are aware, they are conscious, they understand that they are part of a movement. Everybody who gets connected to this message pretty quickly understands, oh, so this is a movement, right? Where was it? I think it is in Colombia, I think. No, in Argentina. In Argentina, to be a movement is something with a bad connotation. We are a movement. You are what? You're a movement. Oh. So people look down to you if you are in a movement. It's strange to me. I didn't know that. Just learned it recently. The myriad movement. So it has a bad connotation. Movements are not official. Are something, something. Nobody wants to be in movement. So our movement there, to a certain degree, the churches allow them, but they require from them, if you meet people, if you want to teach them, you have to tell them up front that you are a movement. And at the beginning I didn't understand. I said, yeah, what's the problem? We're a movement already. Yeah, but to tell them the movement, they will likely not want to have to do anything with that, because when they know that we are a movement, okay, and this is the thing, we are aware that we are part of a movement, that we are leaving the church, that this is it's not just some add-on, it's an alternative boat we are stepping on. And we have all the preparation time period here. This is just different for us. We are conscious. Even though you just come in a little bit before that time period. And here are some things that I think, I don't know if we can answer that. What if you come into the movement 1 month before? Or the day, before. Are you then priest? Are you, I don't know, because how can you prepare in a day or in a week, how get you character change? How do you make it from? How do you get ready to be a priest? Because a priest has to do what? Has to teach them. So if you come in November 8th, are you able to learn all the things that you need to teach then? Or how is it? There are some things that I think we still need to resolve how it works. Yes. But what will exactly happen that day in our movement? How will it impact our movement? I think we do not fully understand what's going to happen that day.
As the day becomes closer and closer, you think more and more light will be shared with regards to November 9, 2019, so that we...
Yes, I believe this is something that we see right now going on. I mean, Sister Tess, who has been teaching this message since October last year in Arkansas, United States, and she has been teaching this afterwards in different other places, in Australia, then she was in Brazil, and in Brazil she said some things that she hadn't said before. Yeah, and after Brazil, she went to, where was she? No, she was in Guadeloupe, I think in Guadeloupe, and then she said other things that she hadn't said in Brazil. Development of the message. She was supposedly teaching the same thing everywhere, X27 and Barrios, etc. But she said some new things, and then she went to Holland and she said other things that she hadn't said before. So within a couple of days, the message develops and develops and develops, and it's continuing to develop very quickly. So yes, definitely. So we're getting closer, we come to understand more and more things. Yes.
When November 9th comes, what will be the identifying factor between the foolish priest and the wise priest? We said it's not a moral test, it's a prophetic test. So it being a prophetic test, is it that they would have to, the wise priest would have to understand the midnight cry and see it coming, and give a loud cry and be baptized or something like that?
This is another thing, do they have to be baptized? Is it even possible to technically, logistically for us to baptize everyone who is priest? It seems to be very, very difficult to accomplish that. It seems to be impossible. Until November 9th. Because you have to give them the classes, the baptismal classes. We could travel everywhere now and baptize people, but you have to get them through a process. And what if someone decides 1 week before he wants to give baptismal classes? You need to be available. You need to have teachers available who can do that, can travel there. The people need to be convicted. You need to be the fruits of their conviction. So I think it's technically almost impossible to baptize everyone before that. So perhaps this is not part of the test.
So on November 9th, for the wise priests, it's a continuation. Like, light keeps increasing after November 9th. The wise priests
For sure.
continue to stay in the message.
For
all
sure,
these
it continues. Yes.
convictions, all this is
Yes.
happening, all this is happening. But for the foolish priests, what's the identifying mark?
Rejection of the prophetic message,
Cry?
of the midnight cry. Midnight cry is part of the second angel's message, right? It's a methodology. If you stick in this movement to a wrong methodology, you fail the test. Now you cannot just say, "Oh, I see the line of Barrios, the Second World Wars, the Second World War, Trump, what happened. I get all that. I'm fine with it." This is not it. You need to stick. You need to learn. You need to unlearn quickly and learn a new methodology. The methodology of this movement. This is part of it. Because if you don't have this equipment, you're not able afterwards to instruct or to understand the truth.
Two things. The first one is, I don't know that we need to worry about what false priests look like, but when we look at the Millerite line, it was very clear after October 22, within a few weeks or months, who passed the test and who didn't. Because those that passed the test kept studying, kept searching, kept praying. What did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Whereas the ones that didn't came up with new truth.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
Yeah, so that was that one point. The second one I want to say, you spoke about those that come in right before November 9th. We've all read the quote or heard the quote, first MR, page 34. It says, "Truths that we have been years learning must be learned in a few months by those who now embrace the third angel's message." And if it stopped right there, that might be a scary thought, and it might seem unfair. But it says, "We had to search and wait the opening of truth, receiving a ray of light here and a ray there, laboring and pleading for God to reveal the truth to us. But now the truth is plain, its rays are brought together, the blazing light of truth, when it is presented as it should be, can be now seen and brought to bear upon the heart." And so, the movement has been for 30 years working on a precise message and learning a little, here a little ray of light, there a little ray of light. But things are opening up very clearly, and it's being much easier to explain now as this last year has been rolling around especially. So those that come in just a few days before, they really don't have anything to worry about, because they're going to know the truth in a nutshell a lot faster and a lot easier than people that have been in the message a long time. And Elder Jeff brought that out at the camp meeting.
yeah, I agree. Just give me the quote for everyone. So we
1 MR 34.
wine.
33.4, sorry. It's in the middle of it.
And I just wanted to add on to what Brother James is saying, is that in that whatever amount of knowledge they have, however small it is, it will be sufficient for them to be able to remain in movement or stay. Like the way we have, honestly, a lot of, for 30 years, right? Imagine all the information from 30 years, or maybe a few more years, 32, I don't know how long. Just take that compared to those guys, the newbies, so green, the novices. They're going to have, like, let's say, I don't know, 1 year or a couple months. But still, imagine that even with that small amount of time, and maybe not so much information have gained, but enough for to keep them, right? And it's also going to be enough to keep them in the same way we have, who had all this time, all this stuff. It also helped us keep in. So God will just work with you based on what you received and whether you've accepted or rejected, kind of a thing, versus when you came in. Like, I don't think it's so much important for God when you came in, versus what did you do with the information you got when you actually received it. I think that's most of what God is looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I also would say at every waymark here you have a test, right? So why would this test be different to this test? The same thing happens. We have seen how the message of 9/11 was a test. So many people, they liked the charts, they liked the Miller, back to the pioneers, they liked all these things. But then when they even accepted 2520, but when we said this happened in 9/11, many went out of the movement. And so with other dates, right? So all these tests, they just produce the same result. And then something very, very sad immediately happens to the people who fail the test. Basically, immediately afterwards, they are not able to understand the logic any longer of what comes in. I had encounter with people, they were preachers of this movement. And just, like say, weeks after they had made the decision, they left the movement, they are not able at all, if you try to reason with them and say, but listen to this or hear this, they cannot follow. They don't see it. They don't get it. So what you see is the Holy Spirit is just retiring. Just retracts himself from these people. I mean, he's retracting from these people, and they don't have the capacity to understand any longer. They have failed the test. Same thing will be. It will not be that they will continue and they will see and understand everything and maybe they'll join. No, they just don't see it anymore. They turn. And this is why many of them, when they leave our movement, where do they go?
They become the hardest critics of the movement.
Yes, but where do they? Back to the church. And this is so absurd, but this is what's happening. What happens in their mind, that they return to the church. They've been fighting against the church. They know all the logic. They don't see it anymore. They're fine with returning to the church. Okay, so we can continue this afternoon. Lord willing, let's close. Our dear Heavenly Father, we praise you. We can sit here in beautiful circumstances, calmly and with certain time, but Heavenly Father, we at the same time understand that the great event is quickly approaching. We need to be ready, Heavenly Father. Help us to understand perfectly what we got to do, what we got to learn, where we should set our foot the day of tomorrow. Heavenly Father, please give everyone conviction and understanding and strength to take the right decisions. In Christ's name, we thank you so much that we have this school here and the possibility to study together. Amen.